Emiy, and it's all about the kids. Yeah. Let's start the game over. Back to the way things were. It's all about the kids. So put your family first. Let's start the game over.
Good pollen afternoon. Good pollen afternoon. This is May Day. May Day, the pollen is winning. Winning. It has been kicking my butt all day. Welcome to Emiy TV, Put Your Family First podcast. We are in the building. Dr. Heather, hello.
Hi.
Brother Dave.
Hey.
So we're here. Yesterday was Father's Day, and we continue our conversation with Fatherhood Unity Month, as this week is a big week for the Fatherhood Brunch that is coming up.
Yeah.
And you don't want to miss this. Again, get in where you fit in, because it's 25 at the door, so you better get that 29. And we're looking forward to this Saturday. This past weekend was pretty good. Saturday, we had the Honor Thy Father, and I got the privilege to sit next to a 96-year-old dad. He even got up and sang in the choir.
Yes, I took that picture. I got that picture.
And he's still driving. And he was telling everybody in the building, watch what you eat. And then when he sat down next to me, he grubbed.
He was watching.
He had 2 plates, 17 pancakes, like he was going in.
Right.
I said, I guess that diet piece you was talking about, that's your diet.
And then he probably said, I'm 96. I can eat what I want.
Right.
He said, I can eat. I can eat. And we were having a conversation at the table today. It was an interesting conversation. We were having a conversation at the table about fatherhood. It was an interesting story that took place at the table. It was a brother. And this brother had said he was a secret. Right? And he didn't know how, because he had to speak on fatherhood. He didn't know how he was going to talk about it. There are a lot of men out there that, when it comes to fatherhood, right, got a different story. And it usually starts with, right, and within our culture, it usually starts with either I had my dad, I didn't know my dad was around the corner, my dad was my neighbor, and my dad knew about me the whole time. Or my dad was deceased. My dad was on drugs. And when you look at the fatherhood piece, there's a significant impact. When I'm talking these numbers, I'm talking the numbers for a reason. I'm saying that the culture has a 30% success rate when it comes to parenting children, right? So people would argue that, right? But I say that because of the single household piece that is literally feeding the system. Our children are being educated by everybody else but us. In some areas, of course, you have HBCUs, those types of things. But before they get to an HBCU, right, these are real things. And let's be clear, white people go to HBCUs now. I want that to be clear. And then you have the dynamics of, the daycares, the whole nine. And somehow in this conversation, we missed the value of fatherhood, right? So we yesterday was very tough for some people. And I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about the good. So yesterday, you know, really the good. Saturday was good. Sunday was good. Father's Day was good. And
what was your challenge for Sunday, Calvin?
Here come the stalker. My challenge was for me to do nothing.
And?
Produce a list of things that I should do for myself. 25, right? The first time I did that, it was a struggle. This time I dropped 30. Mm-hmm. I dropped 30 like LeBron in the fourth. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I'm starting to make me a priority. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the thing. But Fatherhood Unity Month. And Miss Heather, I know you wanted to add some things, so jump in with both your shoes on.
Of course. I wanted to share that in my research, how Fatherhood Unity Month, the month of June, is really not just a local phenomenon. It is actually something that is national, and it's continued to grow. And so I just wanted to share a little bit of some of the information that I found about it, and how the different components that make up the Fatherhood Unity Month and awareness around fathers and fatherhood. So it's celebrating Fatherhood Unity Month in June emphasizes the critical role fathers play in families and society, promoting responsible fatherhood and positive child development. It's a time to acknowledge fathers' contributions, encourage their active involvement, and address potential barriers to their participation in their children's lives. This celebration fosters stronger family, better outcomes for children, and healthier communities. And so it went on to describe different categories. So it talked about what positive child development was. Engaged fathers significantly contribute to child's well-being, leading a better academic performance, higher self-esteem, fewer behavioral problems, and a reduced risk of negative outcomes like poverty, substance abuse, and juvenile delinquency. It also talks about how it strengthens fathers. Recognizing and celebrating fathers' contributions help foster stronger family bonds and promotes healthy co-parenting relationships, even in cases of separation or divorce. So, I mean, those were just two. I got a whole list of things, too, to complement that. But I thought those two were really important. And I think we kind of look at them, but I think sometimes we kind of side-eye them. Like, yeah, okay. But we're not really understanding how valuable it is. And this is the opportunity to take the whole month that we look at fatherhood and really examine it. And one of the opportunities that I found, so we have a different set of 3 Ps that we talk about in our organization. So what I found was another P that I thought was even more powerful. But I'm going to share our 3 Ps are that fathers provide protection, problem solving, and providing. So provision. So the one that was added to this 3P list that you can use interchangeably for your situation was permanence. And the permanence is really the father's consistency and the family consistency. So again, whether you are separated, married, or not in a relationship at all, and you are still a father, it doesn't take away from you being the father. What we have to do a better job at is communicating that. Bless you. Yeah, is communicating that and how we see and define those 3 Ps in our family, in our units. And so I think that's a really important part of how and why we celebrate. So I just wanted to add that the challenges that were given to Calvin were around his fatherhood message, because again, those 3 Ps, protection, providing, and problem solving, is a state of mind. and that typically is outward to your children and your family. We also have to encourage our fathers to look inward with those 3 P's, that they have to provide for themselves, that they have to problem solve again, and then the last one is to protect themselves. And part of that protection has to do with their health, mitigating risk for mental health, because that stress and what our men face anyway, what that stress can do to a man is something that is worthy of bringing attention to. And so that challenge about finding, at least 25 things that you can do for yourself that is not connected to somebody else, not connected to your family, but for you, is a part of your mental wellness, that you know that you're valued and valuable. And you have to be valued and valuable to yourself also, not just for, giving your resources outward. And that's typically what fathers, they put everybody else first, just like mothers do. But we want to make sure that as we talk to fathers today and we talk to families about, what types of gifts are you really giving for Father's Day? It was a big joke about what are the typical items fathers get for Father's Day. So we tried to do a little bit differently this year. No ties, no socks, no tools.
So, yeah. And it turned into, right? I enjoyed myself yesterday, though.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Where did Fatherhood Unity Month come from? Who's the founder of that?
I don't know who the founder is in other states. I know you talk about it here. You had a whole campaign for the last few years around Fatherhood Unity Month.
I started during COVID. COVID, because there was nothing out there like that. So I started during COVID, and for 30 straight days, we did fatherhood with fathers from all over the country. Brought them in. We had them on Zoom. We had conversations. We had panels. We talked with a number of fathers. Dr. Pate was Dr. David Pate was very powerful during that time. And it was, he talked about, because David Pate, he the one that has been studying black men for 35 years now. And we talked about the economic piece. And we talked about a number of things around fatherhood. I just remember that significant conversation. Dave, how was your Father's Day?
Oh, it was excellent. Got to spend time with my son and his unique style of approach and looking out for his dad. And, and there's a sincerity, even though he has his way of approaching things, that's questionable. But in the end, he was very giving and in that moment, very conscientious of me.
Thank you.
My daughter, an amazing woman. I always have to call her, be careful not to call her my baby because she's a full-grown woman. But what an amazing interaction. And, even though she has her challenges, there's always that moment of feeling valued and loved by her. I don't care who encounter her, you're going to experience that love that she shows. She's just one amazing woman, She doesn't have all the abilities that we have, but yet, in her presence, her spirit is connected to you. And you will feel that. Unless she thinks something's wrong with your spirit, then she'll turn her face from you. That's amazing. I've only seen 2 people that happened to, so I know it's real. So it was great. Then got to fellowship with my brothers and them. So it was a good Father's Day. Miss my own dads, but and friends who were mentors I would take on. But I got a really great text from a gentleman I respect a lot. He's in his 80s. He said, "Can you be my dad? You're a great dad." That was fascinating. Then the other young man said, "You're my rock." And I was like, wow, you never know what impression you leave on people. So it was a good day. It was a good Father's Day.
Awesome.
Dave, what would you say was the challenge that you faced? We intentionally challenged Calvin, but did you face a challenge And how your approach to Father's Day, did it make you go inward at all? Like reflective?
Yeah, when I wrapped the day up, that made me think again, what type of father am I? What am I leaving as a legacy? What am I displaying in my behavior on a daily basis? My biggest challenge was not to go to work, so, I got clients and the bigger reflection too was looking back on where you think you should be at right now based on your life experiences. And again, I come out of high school 50 years ago, and it's been a really rough year because I keep thinking about I shoulda. So one of the key things I want to point out when you made the point about Calvin said he did 30 things about looking out for himself. One would say sometimes you view men as they're being selfish if they're looking out for themselves. But I had explained this to my son yesterday, that there's a difference between selfishness and self-preservation. You have to preserve yourself or you can't help nobody else. Mm-hmm. And Jesus did that very well, because even when times they were trying to take him out, basically the line covered across the board of his span of 3 years. You don't take my life, I'll give it willingly. So he made sure that no matter who tried to hurt him, only till his time was to be up was he going to let anybody do harm. So he preserved himself, and we as men don't do a great job of that because our culture, and I think this is across the board, we don't do a good job in validating men and their worth in its fullness. We acknowledge it, and you said before, you kind of slight it, right? And then, because when I brought up yesterday at the church about, we got to do more for men, we got to be this, and then you hear the mock reply, yeah, we got to do more, but the action don't follow. Mm-hmm. Or you say something about men, and then instantly we're talking about women. Mm-hmm. And so if you say that these men have value, and within the church is mostly women and not men, what's wrong with that picture? Because we're supposed to be leading as men as well. And not to lead to control, but lead to guide and support and all the other P's you brought up. But for some reason or another, it just gets pushed to the side. Now, some cultures, or religions, they're a little more adamant about validating the man. But for the big picture of things, we can see the men, it's a big joke. And everybody knows the joke. This will validate everything. Yeah, you ain't got to worry about whether you get a seat in the restaurant because it's going to be empty. The big joke. How do we get to that point that on Father's Day, we can walk in and we don't need no reservation. You go to top restaurant, hey, ain't nobody here. But you go to Mother's Day, it's backed up because you're right there distinguishing the two roles. That one has to seem to be a little more valued than the other. That's disappointing when it should be on an equal basis.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's no longer an ask, if you will. It's more like a demand. We're not here for the giggles anymore. When it comes to fatherhood, the cat is out the bag, so to speak, and it's being understood that going forward, we'll continue to raise the value because it was put in our hand. Mm-hmm. So our sons and grandsons and understand the demand for themselves. There are some men who really demand that they be valued on Father's Day, and they do certain things. I know the one thing that was hilarious to me was I was talking to my brother, and he was like, yeah, I got up this morning, worked out, and went to the car wash. I said, oh yeah, I got to go to the car wash, because I said I was going to go to the car wash. I had told Rob, I'm going to go to the car wash, then we're going to cut some of this grass, right?
I'm going to go to work, right?
We're going to go to work.
I'm looking out for me. I'm going to go to work.
I'm going to go to work, right? So
it's my day.
Right. So we go, and when I pull up to the car wash, it's men washing the cars, and I go, yeah, this SHIT ain't going to happen again. Next time I'm really, right? In the past, we've done Father's Day events. We've had fatherhood picnics where men came out. We had, we just did that, right? The part I didn't like was we were coming together and everybody getting blowed, right? I just didn't want that part of it.
Right.
If we could come together in the sense of, business, working together, that type of thing, that was the thing, right? So Heather has a list for us, right? And some of the things on here, again, and I want to touch on this because even the Bible was like talking about the virtues, the courage, the strength, the leadership, the self-sacrifice, love. That part is tough, right? There's another piece, provision. Men are often portrayed as providers for their families, both maternally and spiritually, by working hard, managing resources wisely, and guiding their families in faith. Righteousness and godliness, faith, love, steadfast, and gentleness. These are emphasized as essential qualities for men of God. Right? Seeking validation from God. The Bible also warns against seeking validation solely for the approval of others. According to the relevant Bible teaching site, Psalms 3:37, 5, and 6, and Jude 20, encourage Christians, right? That was put in there. That was put in there. Encourage Christians to build themselves up in their faith and seek validation from God's word through prayer. Emphasizes that a man's character is revealed in how he treats others, especially those closest to him, and in his commitment to God's will. Now, this is where we're going to have a problem, right? Because you can't improve a situation if I cannot see validation for what I want to become. If I want to become a father, what is going to validate me or appreciate me in this process? And a lot of times we say, well, we just sacrifice. Where does confidence come in at as a man if that's all he has? And right, because confidence, the word in itself starts with confide, right? Into self, right? So I'm confident. A woman doesn't want an inconfident man, right? That is what's happening to our sons and our children when we're not present. You can't build them to where they need or where they understand, right? I tell the story that my mother used to turn us to the mirror and tell us, right, you're handsome, you're beautiful. She would do that all day, right? And it wasn't until my uncle told me, right, which is crazy, right? This Saturday is going to be crazy. This wasn't what my uncle told me, right? Like, hey, you can't, And then my uncle that was a pimp and what he told me. And then the neighbors. That's where I'm in my manhood, where my confidence reside. It was because of those men that I would have confidence in understanding how to pretty much lead. And there's some areas in there that I struggle with at the age I'm at now, but it's not confidence. Dave, we talk about it all the time. I can get a fly to shoot a gun, especially if it's a female fly, you know what I mean? Before I can get the male fly to do, you know what I mean? But it's important for us to understand that, and Heather is probably going to touch on this, but that the foundation is set in order for you to put things on top of it, right? You can't build a house on sand. It's impossible. It's going to sink every time. So if you hand that to a boy, an emotional male, he has no clue about the foundation. He has an expectation. Mm-hmm. He'll say, "You supposed to," and then she'll say, "Well, you supposed to," right? And that's because the piece that's missing is the father. Talk to me, Dr. Rue.
So you kind of mentioned this, but addressing fatherhood absences. This is by focusing on the positive impact of involved fathers. The celebration can directly address the root causes of father absence, such as economic hardship or lack of support systems, and work towards solutions. Addressing father absence involves acknowledging the child's feelings, providing a safe space for them to express emotions, and foster a supportive environment that may include other positive role models. It's crucial to avoid speaking negatively about the absent parent and to focus on validating the child's feelings about the situation. So, strategies for addressing father absence: acknowledge and validate. Recognize that children may experience a range of emotions, including sadness, anger, or confusion due to their father's absence. Focus on facts, not opinions. When discussing the absent parent, stick to the facts and avoid expressing personal opinions or negativity. Reassure the child of your love. Make it clear that the child's feelings are valid and that they are loved and supported. Encourage open communication. Create a safe space for the child to talk about their feelings and experiences related to their absent father. And seek support. If needed, consider seeking support from a therapist or a counselor who can provide guidance and tools for both child and the caregiver. So it's really important that the action that you take is one that puts the child first. How do you, in the midst of whatever you might be thinking, which is talking about the opinions, and how you're feeling, can you shift long enough for the child to be the priority? And I think for both parents or caregivers, that is so important when we talk about the validation component. Because when you can pull your words back, because children remember words. They remember how it made them feel to hear it, the tone that you expressed it. Those things are really important. And we sometimes miss that they are much brighter than we give them credit for, because they listen and they're sponges. From 3 almost up to 8 years old, they're just taking in information. And then they're not only are they taking it in, but they're matching. They're really good at matching emotions to words and how that looks on the person that is making that expression. So being mindful and aware of what you say and how you say it when we talk about our fathers or fatherhood, father figures, step-in fathers, that father image, we have to be mindful of what we say about them. And just a word to the mothers and the grandmothers that are caregivers, that as we may express our feelings, whether it's excitement or disappointment for the father in the child's life, we have to remember that is a mirror for that child that you're protecting, or you believe that you're protecting, that those words still echo to them, and that you were the one that said it as they're growing. They don't forget that. They don't forget how it made them feel, and then mirror that same feeling. Then you were talking about me if you were talking about my father. And sometimes we're not aware that they're taking in information like that. When you're talking about their father, you're talking about me, and so you must feel this way about me. And then they begin to act accordingly. We wonder why our sons get disobedient as they get older. It's not just a way of life, but it's sometimes what we have expressed verbally about the men or the father figure for that boy. So we have to be mindful that they take that personally. And it's, sometimes we're just talking because we think they're not listening. Children are always listening to what parents are saying or what people are saying, especially your parents. So we have to be mindful that is a tool that can be used for good. And when we're not aware, it can also be used to hurt that child. And so this is what it's talking about, that we have to be mindful about how our children's feelings are taken into account in what we say and how we say it.
Brother Dave?
Yeah, I think that you hit some key points. And as you were speaking, I was thinking to myself, where does it start at? Where do we start to prepare our boys as they move into this, developmental process of life, so as they reach manhood? What do they do to become who they need to be, so they can validate their child when they have them? And in many cases, that's not the case because they don't get validated as children. And so it's so significant that when we talk about having children of our own, that we make sure we do our own self-examination, because the parents are the first attachment that they experience. And if you compromise, there's a high probability your child is going to be compromised. And then if you get in a situation where you're going to part ways, you're going to continue to display that behavior, speak that kind of language that doesn't validate to that child, especially our boys, that this man who's supposed to be their representation and their first attachment had any real value. So it's important for us to make sure that we examine ourselves first. When I sit down with the boys that I counsel, in most cases, I'm only seeing the mother. In most cases, I'm only hearing the negatives from the mother, and then I hear the boys repeat the negativity from the mother and whoever else their circle involves. So it's so important that when you get into parenthood, whether, I don't like the word accident, but it just wasn't planned, and once you have the child, as you said earlier, you have to dismiss your own selfishness and exercise selfless behavior to that child to help them to develop. All your personal issues concerning the father or vice versa, that's that relationship. But when it comes down to the child, I have one case right now where the gentleman said that if they charge me with child support, I don't want nothing to do with the mother or the child. And I say, so you're dismissing the relationship with your child because of the relationship with the mother that has nothing to do with the child. So long term, that child is going to experience those effects of your selfishness because you're really hurting from the relationship you have with the mother. Two separate entities, you need to address them accordingly. Dollars and cents doesn't match up to the love that child needs to prepare for the role that you hold right now as a father. So these issues that we see, is again, it all starts back to the individual, the father, the mother, and how they address this ideal called fatherhood or motherhood.
So the beautiful piece about what they both have said is they're addressing the parents, and the parenting. Mm-hmm. Right? The to be clear, one is comfortable in his absence, and another one is comfortable in her pride. Both are destroying the children, and the system is taking advantage of that. From caskets to the NBA playoffs, from baseball, golf, life, businesses. The history of saying these things is a tough pill for the child. We know the statistics around when the child doesn't have a father. We know the statistics around when we see the results of the pride of I can raise this child. And I want to say this with a very clean, open heart when I say this. Back in the 40s and the 50s, there was a man in the home where we call the house that we call Big Ma. In that household was a man who could back up the threats that she put down and put it on display. Today, that's child abuse. Yelling at a child, calling them out their names, and threatening them It's now child abuse. See, because when that man was in the house and you said that, there was someone on the same page. Today we have men and women starving and saying what they want in a relationship, but don't want to navigate themselves to make the relationship work. Today we talk about the stepfather. Back in the day, the stepfather was important. He was valued. He was Mr. Joseph down the street who came to help without asking, who would then provide for the children. Today we call the stepfather week in a culture that is absence of fathers. Today we say what the mother is, who's absent of the father. We're rewarding negative behavior. And as I spoke before, Proverbs 17 and 13 states, if you take something negative and make it positive, it'll never leave your house. Today, we're saying that these things are more important than the things that the father and the males bring to the table. Today, we're creating atmospheres where girls are seeking to be males, changing their bodies, their minds, and growing so hard. Today, the boy doesn't have that process, and he's seeking the feminine aspect of being a mother. We value these things in the wrong way. It takes both parents to raise a child balanced. The girl has the mother, and the boy does too. If they're under the same roof, the girl is going to excel because her species is in the home. The boy is not. It's a proven fact. It is a proven fact. You gotta have balance. So sure, we have guys come out of this environment that is successful, but it goes back to my point about that 30%. Can you imagine if we had a 50% child success rate in this country right now? If 50% of the 41 million, if the 50% of 41 million African American, Black, Negro, whatever you want to put in that position, if you had that success, America would be better, look better, you would have less violence, you would have more innovation, you would have more results, you would have more hospitals, you see, you would have more healthy police officers. You would have, no, what we have is an excessive amount of these things. Everything now, majority of the conversation we're having now is mental health. That's the latest craze. Everything is mental health. I didn't have mental health when I was a little boy. And we didn't have the suicide levels then. So today, everything, our conversation is around mental health because that's just another, in my opinion, it's another way. I am in therapy, let me be clear. And it's needed and it's out here. But it shouldn't be, we shouldn't have the position that every time we see a child, something is wrong with them, that the position is they need therapy. When I can bet you from the work that I know, they just need their father. Because my father is my identity as a boy. And when I don't know who that father is, And I could be lied to, as my son Keith said. I knew it was something different. I wasn't like them. And when he walked in and he saw everybody that looked like him with dimples in their face and a round head, he knew that that's what he was about. So we have these dynamics that's causing a lot of problems, but just like this month, it's Men's Mental Health Month. Dave, Heather, they got clients, right? Mental health is a real thing. I wasn't saying that just to downplay mental health. I was saying it because in some cases, just like when I mentor, in some cases, the kid just need a conversation to take off. There's some other things already in play. Not everybody needs a hands-on. I need to be in front of this therapist every day, the whole nine with it. Sometimes it's just a perfect example, Dave. I jump out the car today to get some gas. And the brother asked me, "Are you a believer?" Because I jump out the car and say, "Well, good morning, brother." And I started pumping the gas. He said, "Are you a believer?" I say, "Every day, all the time." And he poured in that he was alone. And we ended up at the gas station having this conversation at the gas pump. And because he asked that, and we had that conversation, I needed to hear myself have this conversation with this brother, because I too was in that position in the wilderness. This is where God shapes us the most, is when we're in the wilderness alone and it gets heavy. See, we lost the direction of how important men are because of this system. And now we yell and scream what he's supposed to do. And as the seed carrier, he don't realize his value in carrying the seed of life. We could go on. I can go on with this one, right? But I'm sharing because God is so visible and you're so needed, and the wisdom of the Father is so needed. He's the teacher to help prevent the system.
That's powerful. You made me think about the entire concept. It's Fatherhood Unity Month, right? The unity of fatherhood. Even though we talked about, children, and we talked about spouses, but really the strength is in fathers supporting fathers. And you sharing that with the men that you spoke with this morning really highlights that. That is what it's about. It is about a man strengthening another man, a father strengthening another father, because you have some experiences. There are some things that you've gone through on your journey that might be either encouraging or the wisdom that somebody needs on theirs, or your story might help move them along their own story and their own journey. That's so deeply important that when we talk about unity, we're actually talking about the coming together, the you and I coming together. And why, right? Unity has a why at the end. So I think that's a really important opportunity that men who are fathers have, to put men who even are not fathers yet, to put them on a course of that unifying agent. That there is an experience, but there is an experience that we share, and we can strengthen each other from just the word of our testimony.
Go to the commercial. When we come back, Brother Dave, I want you to close us, but go to the commercial. Thank you.
Are you an indie podcast or content creator looking to reach a wider audience? Look no further. Introducing Podcastic, the ultimate podcast network designed exclusively for indie creators like you. At Podcastic, we believe in the power of unique voices and fresh perspectives. We're here to amplify your passion and creativity, connecting you with the growing community of engaged listeners who crave original content. Podcastic is more than just a platform. It's a support system built for indie podcasters, offering a range of resources to help you succeed. From tailored promotional campaigns to professional production assistance, we're here to help you shine. Our intuitive platform makes it easy for you to be seen and heard. We do all the heavy lifting for you. You just show up and create. Plus, with our advanced analytics, you'll gain valuable insights into your audience's preferences, allowing you to refine your content and grow your fan base. Ignite your passion, expand your reach, and thrive with podcasting. Visit our website at www.podcasticlife.com to get started. Podcasting, the home for indie podcasts and content creators.
So yes, thank you. So yes, so like I just want to be clear, right, that Fatherhood Emiy was created to help fatherhood grow. When I see fatherhood, and I see the influence of fatherhood and the voice, and from 2008 of speaking, talking, sharing images, things on fatherhood, to see it in a position today is amazing. Heather, tell the people where they can reach you.
You can reach me at my website at yourinspiredjourney.com. You can also reach me by phone at 313-759-7855. Again, that's 313-759-7855.
Brother Day.
You can reach me at FMAM for Men About Men, and you can also be at drone7 at yahoo.com. And so as we bring a closure to this topic, fatherhood is so significant and so important that fathers need to recognize their value in every shape, form, or fashion. But before we can be an effective father, we have to be an effective man. So it's so important to develop ourselves from the inside out, and it starts with self-examination. So fathers, value yourself, value your sons, value your daughters, and value what you contribute to the world, because you are the difference that makes a difference. Again, you're at Emiy TV, and your host is Dr. Calvin Mann, Dr. Heather Rue, and soon to be Dr. David Patterson. Peace.
Emiy, it's all about that.